Performing storage vMotion. Alright, those of you that know me by now know that I am just a big fan of vMotion in general. Storage vMotion takes us to the next level. It is nothing less than fantastic, and I guarantee you guys are going to enjoy this module. Probably one of the most enjoyable module I've had to record, and I'm sure this is going to be one of your favorites to watch. With storage vMotion, what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to migrate a virtual machine's files while it's powered on from one data store to another without affecting any kind of productivity for the users. Now that's truly amazing because a lot of times you fill up your LUN and you want to move around your virtual machines. Now the only time you could do that without storage vMotion or without some third-party tools, from NetBackup or some of your other storage vendors or backup vendors that may have, you won't be able to do this during production time. You're going to have to schedule downtime. Now, if you have a lot of virtual machines in your environment, if you have hundreds of them, just imagine the hassle and pains of scheduling downtime for all these machines, and just imagine how long it would take you over a weekend or over a course of weeks to migrate these virtual machines from one LUN to another simply because, what? Yeah, well, the LUN that these virtual machines are on is running out of space, or it has a lot of contention, a lot of I/O stress, so we need to move it. But with storage vMotion, I can do this during production hours. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be, we ain't doing this. I can understand that. But with storage vMotion, you really can. It's the same thing as you would do a vMotion of a virtual machine from one host to another. You're just migrating its files from one host to another or from one data store to another. So this lesson is going to be dedicated to performing storage vMotion in a couple of different ways. So let's get right to it. So if we wanted to slap a definition on storage vMotion, we would say storage vMotion is a new feature of Virtual Infrastructure 3 that allows running virtual machines to be migrated between VMFS data stores on fiber channel SAN LUNs accessible by the host running the virtual machine. What that means that in order for you to perform storage vMotion successfully, the host that's actually moving the files of the virtual machine needs to be able to see both the destination and the source LUN. So where you're copying it from and where you're copying it to needs to be visible from the host that's actually performing the storage vMotion. Now let's take a look at the requirements for storage vMotion. And you're going to notice here that the source and destination data stores must be accessible to the host running the VM. We covered that. The destination data store must contain enough space for the new VM, obviously. The host running the VM must have enough memory to hold a second copy of the VM while being relocated. So it needs to have enough, the host that you're migrating it to needs to have enough resources, or the host that you're running the VM from needs to have enough resources to hold 2 copies of that VM while it's being relocated, which is again understandable. Now we talked a little bit about some of the benefits of storage vMotion, but again let me reiterate. Storage vMotion is a great new tool, especially for SAN administrators and for storage in general, that allows you a great flexibility in the design, configuration, and management of storage architectures for your virtual infrastructure. You can now provision new LUNs and migrate VMs with no hassles, no downtime. You're running out of disk space on this LUN, you want to assign a new LUN that has a larger capacity to the ESX host, no problem. Assign that LUN. Once that LUN is ready, storage vMotion all the files to this new LUN, and voila, you are done. Everybody's happy. No downtime required. You don't need to schedule this with 100 different people. You don't need to coordinate this. You actually don't need a project manager for this, which is pretty cool. Now one thing here that's really cool and really important for you to note. VMware only supports storage vMotion across fiber channel SAN LUNs. However, and even though VMware doesn't support it, and VMware is not going to support a lot of things that we're going to be covering in this module, so brace yourselves. You can do storage vMotion with iSCSI, local, and NFS data stores. Again, it's not supported by VMware, but you can do it. Alright, so let's take a look at how you execute storage vMotion. So there's a couple of different ways you can do storage vMotion, and we're going to cover all of them. One of the ways of doing storage vMotion is if you download the VI remote command line interface, which is the recommended method that I'm recommending, and I'll show you and I'll explain to you why. Or you can download the Windows executable RCLI application storage vMotion. or you can application for storage vMotion, that is, or you can download an appliance that VMware has made available, or you can use a GUI from a really cool guy that has developed a third-party plugin for Virtual Center. This person is Andrew Kutz, and you guys should literally build this guy a monument. We'll talk about that in a second, but let's cover the steps first. Now, as far as the VI remote command line interface goes, you can download that, and I placed the link at the bottom of the slide here. You can download that from there, and I'll show you after we get out of the lecture where you can go on the website to actually get this. Now, once that's installed, you have two options of running storage vMotion. You can do interactive, where the user is prompted to answer questions, and we'll go through that. And then you have non-interactive, where you're actually passing all the parameters you want to storage vMotion in one shot, hitting enter, and boom, it's just going to perform everything that you need it to perform in one shot for you. Now, here are the steps that you need to do in order to perform storage vMotion from a remote command line or a virtual appliance. Now, let's talk about the virtual appliance for a second. What the virtual appliance is it's a virtual machine that VMware makes available to you from the website that you could download. You can import that virtual machine into Virtual Center, power it on, and then you have a dedicated remote console to executing these commands. Now, in my mind, in my humble opinion, this is just an overkill. Why would I want to do all of this, go through the hassle of bringing up another virtual machine just so I can do this, where I can just simply install the VI RCLI on my workstation or on my Virtual Center server and make all my functions from there, do everything I need from there. Why do I need to bring up another virtual machine? Now, this is one-sided opinion. You can, however, download the virtual appliance that's available, import it into Virtual Center, and follow these steps exactly. And we're going to go through these steps, but we're not going to do them through the virtual appliance. Now, the steps you see here are for an interactive storage vMotion, where it's going to prompt you every step of the way to enter the correct information that you need. This is what you would do is if you wanted non-interactive, where you're basically passing all the parameters that you want to the storage vMotion, and then it's going to execute in such way. So I've given you the parameters here. Now, for the purposes of this example and the demos that we're going to do, we're actually going to go through the interactive. That way it'll take us one step at a time, but you can see here it's very easy to do non-interactive. This is basically the same steps, you're just passing them all at one time. And towards the end of the module, we're going to talk about my hero, and I think yours too, Andrew Kutz, and I'm going to give you, in the credits section on the DVD, I'll tell you how you can contact Andrew and maybe even thank him for this really fantastic plugin that he's developed for virtual infrastructure client and Virtual Center 2.5. This basically is treated as a third-party client or plugin, the same way that we installed Update Manager and Converter. We're going to install this, and then we're going to take advantage of it. It modifies the virtual infrastructure client's interface, adds migrate storage so that we can do everything from a GUI, and it works fantastic. So I'll give you everything in the credits section for Andrew. I'm also going to include the plugin on the DVD in the extras or in the bonus section, so you can get the plugin from there. And again, I'd like to thank Andrew, if he's watching this, for allowing us to include the plugin as part of the DVD. And we're going to go through an exercise about how to install it and how to do storage vMotion using this plugin. It's truly fantastic. Alright, so let's not delay this anymore. Let's just dig in and let's start doing some storage vMotion. Alright, so the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to go to the VMware website on the URL that I showed you during the slides, and you're going to have to log in. And once you log in, you're going to be offered the following downloads. Now, if you wanted to download the appliance, there it is. This is what I usually install. A VMware Infrastructure Remote Command Line Interface works beautifully. Once you download this and install it on your machine, you'll be able to do storage vMotion commands from the command line. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So it's basically up to you. You have it for Linux as well, and then you have a PDF here that explains to you a little more details about the different ways that you can do storage vMotion with all three of these options that you have on screen. So I've installed the remote command line interface on this machine. Now we want to migrate a virtual machine's files from one data store to another. So the first thing we're going to do is let's go into Virtual Center and let's pick on a virtual machine that we want to migrate its files. So if we get in here, let's double click on prod 1, for example. Let's take a look at which one we want to migrate. Let's pick on V-FSO1. We're going to move this virtual machine over to a different data store. Now, let's make sure this virtual machine is powered on. Performance. Nope. Summary. Thank you very much. So this machine is powered on, and we are going to perform. And let me show you that it's actually configured on the data store that we want to migrate from. So if you take a look at the hard drive here, prod 1 V-FSO1, and there you are. This is where it is. So let's go ahead and move that thing using the command line. So I brought up a command line here, and I've pathed to where the storage vMotion, it's a Perl script. So let me show you here. So if you do a directory, you're going to notice that once you've installed the VI infrastructure, all of the Perl scripts that are available are going to be installed for you here. And one of the ones that we're looking for would be SVMOTION. And there it is. Now, to invoke this, what we're going to do is we're going to type SVMotion, and we're going to do an interactive, we said. So we're going to do space double dash interactive, and we're going to hit enter. The first thing that it's going to prompt us to is to enter the URL to our virtual center server. So let me scroll this a little down, that way it'll become clearer for you guys. And let's enter HTTPS virtual center. Perfect. Now we're going to enter the username that's going to perform this storage vMotion, which I'm going to use administrator. I'm going to use a password as well. We're connected to the server. Now we're going to enter the name of the data center that we're doing this migration of the files from. In my case, it's actually, we've misspelled it, so it's Michigan. And now we're going to enter the data store path of the virtual machine that we're about to migrate. So we've entered the path here, and what we're going to do is right now it's in the data store prod 1. So we put that v-fso1_1 is the directory, and then /v-fso1.vmx is the actual configuration file. So we're going to hit enter. The destination data store that we want to move this to is prod 2. Now if you wanted to move the VMDK files separate from the actual virtual machine files, you can do so in this step. But for us, we're going to click no to skip this step and keep all the files together. And look at that. Now, while this thing is going through, I'm going to go back into Virtual Center, and let's take a look at what's happening here. Now you're going to notice that it started it. Now let's go ahead and open the console of this virtual machine and see if it's affected. Would you take a look at that? Now, okay, if this is not cool, I don't know what else is. So let's go ahead and wait for this thing to be done. You'll notice this virtual machine is still up and running, not affected whatsoever by what's going on or where it's being relocated to. Fantastic. Now it's completed. Let's go ahead and close out of this console, and let's take a look if it actually moved to prod 2. So what we're going to do here is let's go ahead and select ESXL1 and double click on prod 2, and look at that. That is just a thing of beauty. Alright, so now that we've done an interactive migration using storage vMotion, the non-interactive is just as easy. You guys can just go back to the slide and follow the actual passing of the parameters to the storage vMotion Perl script. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the GUI. We're going to install the GUI by Andrew Kutz, and we are going to use that, and I know you guys are just going to love this. So I've made available this plugin on the bonus material that's on the DVD, so you guys can get that from there. I've expanded it on my desktop, and you have two components, an executable that you would install on the Virtual Center server, and then an executable that you would install on the client. I'm going to do both of them, even though because I'm installing this on the server, I only need to do it on the server piece, but I'll do it on with both. Now, Andrew has also provided us with a PDF on how to create plugins for the virtual infrastructure. He details a lot of how he's done this plugin for Storage vMotion. Feel free to take a look at that. It's, it's a Bible for this kind of stuff, I could add. So let's go ahead and install the server piece. We're about to install a certificate. Yes, now I'm going to give it the administrator username and password. Okay. Oblige. Thank you. Alright, we're going to click on close. And then if you had your VI client on a different machine, you can install the client setup. I'm going to go through it here real quick. Click on close. Close that. Now, let's go back into Virtual Center. So what do? I need you guys to tell me, what do I do from here? This is a plugin, so what do we do? Exactly. We go up to Plugins, and we're going to come down to Manage Plugins, and you're going to notice that SVMOTION by Lost Creations is ready for us to download and install. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to click on Download and Install here. Cool, there it is. Now we're going to click on Enable. We're going to click on OK. And now, what do you guys say we do Storage vMotion using a GUI? So we're going to select the machine that we want to pick on. Let's pick on V-FSO1. It's become our guinea pig, it seems. We're going to scroll down here. See how it modified the client, the VI client interface, added migrate storage. Click on that, and bam. So, what are we trying to do? We're moving V-FSO1 from Prod 2, which we moved it to, back to Prod 1. So the simplest thing to do, hold V-FSO1, move it, drag it to Prod 1. It's going to say, okay, this is what you want to do. Click on Apply. And guys, tell me this is not cool. Tell me this is not simple, this is not straight to the point, and this is not easy. Now, here's a word of caution. VMware refuses to support this, and probably they have their good reason. It hasn't been tested well, and I heard that Andrew wrote this thing in a matter of 2 weeks, so I don't blame them. They're not supporting this yet, but guess what? I'm gonna use this. I don't care what anybody says. This makes my life a heck of a lot easier when I want to move something. So I don't want to go do command line. If I don't have to, I want to avoid it at all costs. I don't care if you guys call me, oh, you're not a real geek or whatever. I don't care. I'm lazy and I want to do whatever is going to get the job done as quickly as possible. And then after this is complete, I'm going to show you that it actually performed the move and that it moved it correctly. Alright, it's completed. Now let's take a look if it actually moved it. Alright, let's double click on Prod 2 here. No V-FSO1. Let's double click on Prod 1, which is where it moved it to. And voila, this is the right one because in the command line when we're doing it, we specified V-FSO1_1. And I'll show you that this is where it's actually pointing to as well. If you're doing edit settings, if you take a look at where the hard drive is and the configuration files and everything, you'll notice that they're on FSO1_1. Now, since we're still on the subject of storage and moving virtual machine files from one data store to another, we've been talking about how we can do this dynamically with Storage vMotion. But in the event that you need to do this while the virtual machine is offline, if you need to move the files from one LUN to another or from one data store to another, you can do that. Now, once you're in Virtual Center, if you come up here to the inventory view, click on the right, the arrow here, and drag down to where it says data stores, it's going to list all the data stores that it has. And now if you click on any particular data store, on the right you can select virtual machines, and it's going to tell you which virtual machines have their VM files stored or living on this particular data store. If you click on hosts, then it's going to tell you which hosts have access to this particular data store. This is pretty cool. Now if you come up to the left here and you right click on Prod 2, for example, and do browse, and let's say we wanted to move CM-TSO1 from this data store, we wanted to move its files, and be careful, while it's powered off, we right click on it and we do move to, And then from the browser here, we're going to have to dig down to where we want to move this to. Let's say I wanted to move this to ESX02. This is local storage on ESX02. If I wanted to move it here, all I have to do is click on move, and it's going to kickstart the move process. Now this is going to be a little slow, just a word of caution, but it'll move it, it'll get the job done for you in a very easy way. And again, it's a GUI, so it's going to be very straightforward, very easy to do. And there you go. You're going to notice that it's not on this data store anymore, prod2. So if we close out of here, and if we open up ESX02, you're going to notice that it's right here. Now, one thing to notice here, the process is slow, and I don't really know why. I mean, when we're doing storage vMotion, we're copying, the same amount of data. At first I thought maybe the disk sizes, but the disk sizes are very similar, so we're still copying about 8 gigs. When moving through the data stores, it took about 14 minutes to move this virtual machine from one data store to another. And it didn't matter if this data store was local to the ESX host or if it was a fiber channel or anything like that. So just one word of caution here when you're doing that. So it seems like storage vMotion is even faster, and one more reason to use storage vMotion. Alright folks, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. It's been a lot of fun doing this. This is one of my favorite lessons to have recorded for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got enough information out of it, and I hope you're going to be able to implement it in your environment very well. Don't forget to email Andrew or drop him a note and telling him how great he is, so that we can keep getting some great third-party plugins from him. So I'd like to thank you for viewing this lesson with me.